Steps echoed endlessly in the dark, pacing back and forth across the enclosed space. Are you still listening to me? A voice rang out. Charlie was lost in the dark, spinning silently and trying to get to the surface of whatever void she was in. Unlike you, other Charlie muttered unseen. I was real. I was an actual girl, one who deserved the kind of attention showered over you. You were nothing. Charlie opened her eyes, the room still spinning. She tried to breathe, but all her breaths stopped short of going in or out. It was a doll laying on the floor a few feet in front of her. She reached for it conclusively while gasping for air. Do you want to know where my hate comes from? It's not from this machine that I reside in. It's not from my past self, if that's what you want to call it. Charlie clawed at the floor with her fingers, unable to move the rest of her body. She gripped the doll with her fingertips and pulled it closer. I hate because even now I'm still not enough, Elizabeth whispered. She held out her sleek metallic fingers in front of her face. Even after this, embodying the one thing father did love, I'm not enough. Because he can't duplicate this. He can't make himself like me. Her voice began to grow angry again. He can't duplicate what happened to me, or maybe he's too scared to try it on himself. I broke free of my prison. I emerged from the flames and the wreckage of Henry's last great failure, and I went to my father. I gave myself to him, to study, to use, to learn the secrets of my creation, and still it is you he wants. Charlie clambered up onto her hands and knees and dragged herself toward the hallway. Elizabeth didn't seem concerned, taking slow steps behind her, not trying to catch her, only to keep her in sight. You, maybe he can recreate. Henry somehow got a piece of himself into you, and that's something we haven't seen before. That's unique. Kelly kept crawling steadily. She was beginning to feel stronger, but she kept her movements slow and clumsy, getting as much distance as she could between herself and Elizabeth. Charlie looked up and down the hall, searching for something, anything, that might have given her an advantage. The door to the next room was open and she could see a desk. Sitting on it was a round stone paper weight. Without picking up her pace, Charlie crawled across the room, dragging her legs as if they pained her, while Elizabeth's slow, patient steps followed a pace behind. Can you get the green for me? It was called. Carlton blinked. He was sitting upright but felt only half present, as if he had been daydreaming. The green, the tiny voice repeated. Please? Carlton cast his eyes around for something green. The floor was black and white, and they were sitting somewhere in the dark. A little boy was hunched over a piece of paper drawing. Carlton looked up. We're under a table, under the table at Freddy's. There were drawings scattered in front of him on the floor, and a box of crayons spilled out across the tiles. Carlton spotted a green crayon that had rolled up against the wall, and he grabbed it and handed it to the little boy, who took it without looking up. Michael, Carlton said, recognizing drawing. Michael continued to draw. Where? Carlton looked around, but what he saw didn't make sense to him. The pizzeria was brightly lit, yet Carlton didn't see more than 5 feet away, as though there was a blurry cloud masking everything beyond. He ducked his head out cautiously from under the table, but the bright lights hurt his eyes, and he shielded them with his hand, crawling back under. Michael did not move. He was drawing steadily, his brow forward in concentration. Carlton studied the pictures on the ground with a vague sense that something was wrong. I don't belong here, he thought, yet part of him felt completely at home. What are you doing? He whispered to Michael, who looked up from his drawing at last. I have to put them back together, Michael explained. See? He pointed out from the table at the pizzeria around them. Carlton squinted into the blurry horizon, seeing nothing at first. Then they began to appear. He saw pages and pages of colorful drawings, some on the walls, others blowing through the air. They're all in pieces, Michael said. He shuffled the pages in front of him and found two that showed the same child. Then he placed one on top of the other and began to trace the lines. These go together, Michael said. holding up the picture. The two drawings they become one, the separate pages somehow bonded together. The lines were clearer and the colors more vibrant. Why are you putting back together? Carlton asked. My friends. Michael pointed to a single picture propped up against the wall. It showed five children, three boys and two girls, standing together in a cheerful pose, with a yellow rabbit standing behind them. I know this picture, Colson said slowly. His mind was still foggy as he tried to grasp at the answer. It only slipped further away. Who is that? Carlton whispered, pointing to the rabbit. He is our friend, Michael said, not looking up from his work. Can you get more for me? Carlton looked out into the pizzeria. The space he could see had expanded a little more, and now he could make out the blurs of other children who seemed to be grasping at pages as they flew by. Trying to grab the drawings, Carlton got out from under the table and stood up. Walking through the midst of the mirage and colors, a boy in a black and white striped shirt came running up, chasing a piece of paper. What are you doing? Carlton asked. The boy grabbed empty air, and the page flew away into the blurry distance. My papers blew away, the boy cried and hurried off. Carlton turned and saw another boy in the same outfit on the opposite side of the room, chasing other pages. A little girl with long blonde hair ran past him, and he rolled around, recognizing her far away. There were duplicates of each child, all of them chasing different pages. A single figure stood still amongst the chaos, out of phase with the surroundings. At first, it seemed to be a man bent over a table, but as Carlton's head throbbed with waves of confusion, the man became a yellow rabbit, not standing over a table, but over five children, tied together as one. The second image washed away, and the rabbit became a man again, standing in the dark. The children ran past the man as if they could not see him. As Carlton watched, several children ran straight through him without seeming to notice. Carlton approached the man as he got closer. The yellow rabbit appeared again, turning to look at him momentarily before blowing away like smoke, leaving the man underneath. This isn't real, Carlton gasped, trying to parse the two overlapping realities that seemed to be swirling around him. Three figures seemed to hold fast, while the rest of his surroundings flickered in and out of existence. The man sitting at the table, a blond boy in the corner, the only child not running and not repeated, and a body laying on the floor, curled in a puddle of blood. Is that me? Am I dead? No, silly, a child called. You're with us. The syringe mechanism recoiled with a loud snap. The man in shadow had taken something from the metal body on the table. Suddenly, another drawing flew into the air, and another ghostly child appeared to chase it. The little girl with blonde locks of hair and a red ribbon bouncing on her shoulders ran past as well. Stop, Carlton called, and she obeyed, her eyes still locked on the drawings she had pursuing. Who is that? Carlton directed her attention to the yellow rabbit flickering out of existence. That's our friend. He helped me find my puppy, she exclaimed before running off again. They don't know, Carlton whispered, realizing her as she disappeared into the blur surrounding him. Carlton searched the air as drawings blew by, snatching at the ones with images that seemed familiar. What are you doing? The little boy in the striped shirt asked. I'm going to help you put these back together, Carlton said, reaching for another picture as it blew past. When she finally crawled her way to the desk, Charlie reached up and grabbed for the top of it, then pulled herself up, finding a struggle. She winced as she put weight on her feet, continuing to act weaker than she actually was. In reality, she was nearly back to her full strength. She leaned heavily on the desk as if for support, putting one hand directly on the heavy stone paperweight. We both know he won't be able to recreate you either. Elizabeth was near. And the real question would be, would we really want him to? Besides, Elizabeth approached Charlie from behind, moving faster. I think I hate you more than I love him. He raised her hand in attack, and Charlie spun around, swinging the rock in a single motion. There was a thunderous crack as it slammed to Elizabeth's face, and Charlie fell back with the shock, dropping the paperweight. She hit the ground hard, cradling her hand. Elizabeth staggered backward, holding her hand over her face, but she could not conceal the damage without her illusion. One entire side of her gleaming white jaw had been knocked off her face, revealing the wires beneath. She cocked her head to the side for a moment as if running a system cheek. Charlie didn't wait for the result. She leaped to her feet, pushing past Elizabeth as she ran back the way she came. Charlie heard Elizabeth moving and dove for the hall closet, pulling it shut tight behind her. I know it may sound very childish to me, Elizabeth cried, her voice sounding like she was still at the end of the hall. But if he doesn't want me, then he won't get you either. The footsteps drew closer, and Charlie looked one away and another, hoping desperately for a place to hide in the small closet. Then suddenly, as she turned completely around, she saw a familiar thing. You. The faceless robot wielding its knife, the mannequin, the construct that her father had built for one purpose to end his life. Your dad thought you were so special, your memory was just too precious to let go of. The blank face was almost peaceful in the dark. It had been built for one thing. It had completed its duty and had remained in silence ever since, standing immovable to pain and to loss. The closet door moved slightly as Elizabeth gripped the knob. Charlie could see her shadow under the door. She grabbed at the clothing hanging behind her, old coats and dresses, and pulled them forward, concealing the construct as best as she could. You can't overpower me, Elizabeth whispered. You aren't like me, she added with relish. Charlie waited in front of the blank faced creature, not hiding. Gently, Elizabeth pulled the door open. I shouldn't be here, Charlie whispered to Elizabeth. Charlie heard John cough from the room behind them, and relief rushed through her. He's going to be okay. He's alive. Elizabeth glanced back as though considering him, then trained her eyes on Charlie and took two deliberate steps forward. Charlie, John called from outside. It's okay, John, Elizabeth answered, her voice indistinguishable from Charlie's. I'll be right out. Instantaneously, she looked like Charlie again, not the grown up Charlie she had been masquerading as, but Charlie as she really was. A mere reflection. She shifted awkwardly. Her eyes darted back toward John just for a moment, then gave Charlie a cruel smile. How far do you think I could get him with before he noticed? She whispered. You're right, Elizabeth, Charlie said. Elizabeth's smile faded. I was never supposed to be here. No? Elizabeth took one last step. Closing the distance between them, she gripped Charlie by the neck, pressing up against her. Neither of us were. Charlie gripped the ragdoll close to her chest. Elizabeth frowned in confusion, then peered over Charlie's shoulder, seeing the robot standing directly behind her. Charlie flinched her hand, one which was behind her back, doing something unseen with a quick motion. A metal pulley screamed. Charlie closed her eyes, hugging the doll, and then the knife went through them. It did not hurt. Elizabeth gasped as the blade plunged through her too, sounding almost human. Charlie saw Elizabeth's face, rigid with shock, then it was gone, replaced by the smooth metal plates of her robotic form. Sparks burst and air above her as Charlie's vision began to fade, and a smell of hot plastic came to her from very far away. It's not fair, Elizabeth's voice sputtered with static. I never had a life. Charlie struggled to take in a breath, still clutching the rag doll to her chest. She reached for Elizabeth's jiggling hand clumsily and caught it. Elizabeth looked at her confusedly, and Charlie strained to put her up to the rag doll. Fumbling, she closed Elizabeth's fingers around the doll, then still holding her hand. Charlie pushed with one last of her strength, sliding the doll across the 4-inch stretch of blade between them until it rested against Elizabeth's chest. Charlie tried to smile, but everything was dark. She had forgotten how to see. Charlie felt her head fall forward and could not pull it up again. Elizabeth twitched for a moment longer, rattling the blade that pierced them. Then her head slumped forward too, resting against Charlie's forehead. Charlie! Joan was screaming her name. Charlie! I love you too. The words didn't come, and then there was nothing at all. Here, right here, Carlton called. The little boy in the striped shirt helped align two more pictures, and Michael traced over them, connecting them into a single drawing. A second boy in a striped shirt appeared from the blurry surroundings and sat down on top of the one already sitting with them, emerging into him seamlessly. Only Carlton seemed to notice the merging of the two children. Not even the boy in the striped shirt himself seemed aware. Besides them was the little girl with blonde curls. They had found all her drawings and put them together, and now she looked like solid and real, no longer ghostly like the others. She was able to speak in full sentences, her cognitive abilities having steadily grown stronger as her drawings were united. Colton struggled to find matching images from the others. He was keeping track of the three stable figures: the man, the boy in the corner, and the body, and it was clear he was running out of time. The man was taking preparations to harm the boy in the corner. You say he saved your dog? Carlton asked the blonde girl, grasping for answers. Mommy said that he went to heaven, but I heard Daddy that he was hit by a car, but I knew it wasn't true. Bonnie told me it wasn't true. He said that he found my puppy. She brushed a lock of hair from her shoulder with her hand. And did he take you to your puppy? He took me, but I don't remember. But it was him who helped you. Carlton pointed to the yellow bunny in the drawing that showed all five kids. Yes, that's him, she smiled. My name is Susie, she added, and that's Cassidy. A girl with long black hair approached, carrying more pictures in her arms. And you? Carlton looked briefly at the little boy with freckles. He struggled to speak, and Carlton glanced nervously at the man in the room as he matched two more drawings together. There, Michael exclaimed proudly. Another ghostly image of the freckled boy climbed over the table and emerged with the one who was already there. He instantly became less ghostly and more whole. I'm Fritz, he smiled, suddenly filled with more life. William Afton clenched his fists, studying his own hands for a moment, then looking toward the medical monitors in the corner. I feel that my time is running short. He looked toward Carlton thoughtfully, but Carlton was still lying on the floor motionless. That's unfortunate, he growled. I seem to learn something, but maybe that's not the problem. He looked toward the metal table. Maybe he just needs some new life in this mass of metal. He smiled at the little blond boy who recoiled and tried to scoot away, though he was already as close as the one he could get. You'll have to forgive me, though, as I'm not sure how to do that either. William took steps toward him. I think a few things to try, and at the very least, it'll be fun, like old times. His lips peeled back, revealing two full rows of stained yellow teeth. The door creaked as it opened, and William's eyes darted toward it as a tangled metal mess lurched toward him, scraping across the floor. What are you doing back here? William asked. The painted white fox head was turned at an alarming angle, clearly not functioning properly. Its limbs were all turned and pivoted, some of them broken and drunken, all entering the remains of the creature into the room. The fox's eye spun wildly, searching the ceiling. William pointed to the corner. You're no use to me anymore. Get out of the way. He said dismissively, then drew back, surprised. Following the fox was another motorcade of broken parts, their wires reaching for one another like veins, pulling each other along and holding themselves together. Mounted to the back of the entanglement was the white and purple face of a bear. I'm here. A voice came from a speaker somewhere within the mess, cracking and popping with static. William made a face unnerved by the wrecked, commingling creatures. Get back, he muttered, giving the pretty face a kick. The mass of parts slid away without resistance, sounding almost disappointed as they come to a stop a few feet away. What a waste, he hissed. He turned his attention to the fox again, apparently the most intact. Bring that boy to me, he instructed, and the fox turned his eye to the corner. I have to do something for him, Susan said cheerfully, getting to her feet. Something for who? Carlton asked with alarm and took hold of her arm. Bonnie, she smiled, gesturing toward the cheerful yellow rabbit wavering in and out of existence beside the table. He asked me to do something for him just now. He wants to bring a new friend for us and he needs my help.